next is the topic that is extremely important as far as lower limb trauma is concerned, is the fractures around ankle, and it is going to include the malleolus or the malleolar fractures, can also be written as malleolar fractures. So the next topic is going to be the malleolar fracture. So the malleolar fractures or the fractures around the elbow, the first point that we need to discuss is that what do you mean by the term Pott's fracture? Because these are some eponymous fracture. Pott's fracture, it is bimalleolar fracture. Bi means two malluli, there has to be two malluli. Bimalleolar fracture around the ankle. So what are the names of those two malluli? If this is distal end of the tibia and this is distal end of the fibula and this is the talar bone, so this is a medial malleolus, and as you can see that the medial malleolus is the end of the tibia, so it is the part of the tibia, and on the other hand the another malleolus, that is lateral malleolus, is the part of the fibula. So that is bimalleolar fracture. If there is a fracture of both malluli, then it will be called as bimalleolar or Pott's fracture. Second, the Cotton's fracture. Now what do you mean by the term Cotton's fracture? It is trimalleolar fracture. Trimalleolar means there are to be three malluli. Now two malluli you already know, that is medial as well as lateral malleolus. Now medial malleolus is a part of the tibia, very well known fact. Lateral malleolus is a part of the fibula, very well known fact. But what is the name of the third malluli? It is posterior malleolus. And posterior malleolus is also a part of tibia. So don't get confused that posterior malleolus is going to be a part of the talus or the calcaneum. Posterior malleolus will also be a part of the tibia. That is Cotton's fracture. Third one. What is the name of classification for malleolar fractures? That how these malleolar fractures are classified. The name of the classification is Lodge-Hansen classification. And Lodge-Hansen classification is also based upon the mechanism of injury, which is classifying it into four types. You see, you just have to remember these four types of Lodge-Hansen classification. Don't go deep into the details of understanding what are the further subtypes of these. One is supination, adduction. Other one is supination, external rotation. Then the third one is pronation, but this type of injury is pronation abduction and pronation external rotation. So this is something that you have to mug it up, because no one is going to ask you what are the reasons. Why is it called by the name of supination adduction, supination external? These are the mechanism of injury for classifying the Lodge-Hansen classification. Now there is another classification, but it is a kind of the obsolete classification, because it was not dictating the mechanism, neither dictating the management protocol for the fractures around the ankle joint. And that second classification is Dennis-Weber classification. Dennis-Weber classification, which has classified the fractures of the lateral malleolus into three types. That means at the level of ankle, above the level of ankle, or below the level of ankle. But you need not to go into the details of Dennis-Weber, you just need to remember the name, at least, the Lodge-Hansen classification. So around the fractures of the malleoli, this was a very important topic to be discussed. Then there is another fracture which is known as a named fracture, which is aviator fracture. And what is aviator fracture? It is the fracture neck of talus. As far as the fracture neck of talus is concerned, there is a key term, like the kind of the key term that we have discussed in the fractures of the acetabulum, that was Jurett. But here the key term is Hawkins. And what is the importance of the Hawkins, you will come to know later. But at this point of time, whenever you see this term Hawkins in any question related to orthopedics, try to search for the fractures in the neck of talus in the answers. Complications. What are going to be the possible complications in the fracture neck of talus? One of the complication is secondary osteoarthritis of ankle joint. That is considered to be the most common complication. You see, if there is a fracture, even if it is healed, even if it is healed with a perfect reduction, even if it is healed without perfect reduction, then secondary osteoarthritis or the degenerative changes remains the most common complication for the fractured neck of talus. Then the second one is avascular necrosis, body of the talus. And apart from this, the third one is non-union at the site of the fracture. And this non-union is because of precarious vascularity. This is for the third time we are writing for any fracture which is moving into precarious vascularity moving into non-union because of precarious vascularity. One was fracture of the scaphoid, the second one is the fracture in the neck of femur, and the third one is fracture of the neck of talus. Now just try to understand how, like if this is the head of the talar bone and this is the neck of the talus, and finally this is the body of the talus. This is in the lateral view a rough diagrammatic representation. Then majority of the vascular arrangement to the body of the talus is through head as well as neck, and if there is a fracture in this region, then it will lead to a cut in the blood supply to the body of the talus, and eventually this body of the talus will move into avascular necrosis. Okay, so remember, we have talked about that there is a key term to be remembered as far as the fractures in the talus is concerned. One is Hawkins, that the term was Hawkins. And why? Because Hawkins gave the classification. The classification for the fractured neck of talus was given by Hawkins. That is the first contribution. Second is the Hawkins sign on X-ray. Hawkins sign on X-rays. Now what you have to look in the X-ray is the avascular necrosis in body of talus. Hawkins sign is for the evaluation of avascular necrosis in the body of the talus, that whether this fractured neck of the talus has ultimately resulted in the avascular necrosis body of the talus or not. That is the reason why Hawkins sign is of importance in the fracture around neck of the talus. Apart from this, there is another topic, and the name of the topic is calcaneal fractures. There is an interesting name which is given to this, that is known by the name of Lover's fracture also, calcaneal fracture. And why is it called by this name? Because of the mechanism. The mechanism of injury is fall from height. Like if an individual is falling from the balcony and ultimately resulting, means at the time of coming in contact with the ground, getting his calcaneum impacted with the ground, result in the fractures of the calcaneum. This is one reason why calcaneal fractures are important, because of the mechanism. As far as classification of the calcaneal fractures are concerned, you just need to remember the names. One of the classification is Issac-Lopresti classification, and other classification is Sanders classification. Now Sanders classification is based upon CT. It is CT scan based kind of the classification, not based on the X-ray. But Issac-Lopresti classification is simplified, means it is based upon the primary and the secondary fracture lines on the X-rays. Then this fractures in the calcaneum is also important because of the angles. There are angles that are to be constructed in the calcaneum, and the name of the two angles are Bowler angle and crucial angle of Gissane. This Bowler angle, the normal value for Bowler angle is 20 to 40 degrees, while the normal value for crucial angle of Gissane is 95 to 115 degrees, or it could be considered as 105 degrees. But the more important thing is that Bowler angle is the acute angle and crucial angle of Gissane is the obtuse angle. The angle which is creating an angle of less than 90 degree with the horizontal will be called as acute, and if the angle is more than 90 degree, it will be called as obtuse kind of the angle. So normally Bowler angle is acute, while crucial angle of Gissane is obtuse. But what happens in the fractures of the calcaneum? If there is a fracture in the calcaneal region, or if there is a fracture in the calcaneal bone, then what happens? That this Bowler angle decreases, it further decreases, while crucial angle it increases. There is a further increase in the crucial angle of Gissane. Why we are using the term acute or obtuse in order to represent the fractures around the calcaneum? The reason is because we are expecting a kind of the question for future which will have the X-ray of the calcaneum from the lateral view, and they will be constructing an angle. After constructing an angle, they will ask what is the name of the angle. Just on the basis of the identification, if you see this angle less than 90 degree, it is polar angle. And if there is another angle which is constructed at the level of the calcaneum, and then they ask what is the name of the angle, and if the angle is found to be more than 90 degree, that is crucial angle of Giesecke. These are the two ways with which this question could be asked. This question could be framed. Okay, easier way for remembering it. Then after that, Lisfranc fracture dislocation. Only 2 points you need to remember, because there is a question which they have asked based upon the Lisfranc fracture dislocation. One point is, point number 1, that it is the fracture base of second metatarsal. Lisfranc fracture is the fracture base of the second metatarsal. And the second point is that what is the management, what is the treatment? It is always achieved by open reduction, internal fixation and internal fixation. This is also a question which they used to ask, that how to treat the Lisfranc fracture. Answer is open reduction, internal fixation. You see, majority of the tarsal bones in our limb, in the lower limb in particular, all the tarsal bone, if there is a fracture in the tarsal bone, metatarsal bones, then all of them are treated by the placement of a cast or a slab around in that limb. Means they are treated by non-surgical means. They are not at all treated by the surgical means. Okay, majority, most all of them. But what if there is a fracture in the base of the second metatarsal? It is never treated by conservator. Rather, it has to be opened. After opening it, it has to be reduced. Once it is reduced, it has to be fixed. The reason for that is that this second metatarsal, imagine if these are the names of the metatarsal, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5th. The second is connected to the third by a intertarsal metatarsal ligament. Third is also connected to fourth by intermetatarsal ligament. Fourth is connected to fifth by intermetatarsal ligament. But there is no such connection directly in between 1 and 2. Both of them are connected through cuneiforms. Now if there is a fracture in this region, then this entire ray of the metatarsals will be dissociated from the medial metatarsal and there will be a dislocation. So that ray of dislocation need to be reduced and fixed by the placement of the screw by open reduction, internal fixation. This is the basis why they used to ask this question so very frequently. After that, March fracture. Now what is March fracture? It is the fracture, or you have to write it is the stress fracture neck of second. If second is not there in the option, then go for third metatarsal. It is a stress fracture neck of second or third metatarsal, but give preference to the second. If it is not there in the option, then go for third metatarsals. The question in AIIMS examination 2017, they have asked that stress fracture usually affects the head, neck, shaft or base of the metatarsal. Answer for that question is written over here. It involves the neck of the metatarsals. One more point that you need to remember, that what do you mean by the term stress fractures? Now stress fracture is because of the overuse of the bone. It is due to overuse or abuse of the bone. Like a patient who is, or a person who is an army recruit, or a person who is involved in the athletic activities, or a person who is performing, or a person who is trying to gain entry into the army or is practicing for the army. So all those are the hints which are provided in the question, that the person is likely to putting the over stressing or using or over stressing his bones. So it is because of the overuse of the bone. This is one point. Second, imagine if this is the bone and these are the cortices. So inside there is a medullary canal which is relatively less dense compared to the cortical region, which is denser. In case of a traumatic fracture, first there will be a cortical break and it will extend into involve the medullary canal, and there will be an opposite cortical break. But in case of a stress fracture, first there is a break in the medullary canal, and then with the continuation of this break, there will be a break that will appear in the cortical zones. So the break in the cortical zone will appear later. It will take some time for its appearance. So X-rays are not the investigation of choice. So you have to write what is the investigation of choice in case of stress fracture. Answer for that case is MRI. And in case of bilateral stress fracture, where there is a bilateral stress fracture, then bone scan, because you also need to evaluate the vascular supply, the possibility of any pathological process which is going inside the bone. So that bone scan is the investigation of choice. The next topic that we have to start means with this we have already compiled all the headings of the lower limb trauma which are significant as far as the questions are concerned based upon the orthopedic. The next topic that we have to start with is the peripheral nerve injuries.